listening to Blue Collar Takes with your hosts, Pat and Ben.
Welcome back, everybody. Pat, what's going on, brother?
Oh, same old things.
Audio difficulties?
Yeah, audio difficulties. This generation couldn't go to school today. Too cold. Fucking
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah.
So my
It's
wife, my girls already had the day off but now my wife's home, so that sucks.
um. Well, I think it's because your wife's home that we're able to podcast.
I mean, I would have just locked them in their rooms. We could have done it anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kidding. Yeah, that's true.
I
We do get to podcast because my wife's home, but she's bossing me around and I don't like it.
yeah. Welcome, join the club, man.
Yeah. It's not really a welcome. It's been like this for 14 years.
Yeah, it's the thing that every husband has said ever
Yeah.
throughout the course of human history.
Yeah.
Grin and bear, brother. Grin and bear.
Mm-hmm.
Lot to talk about.
Is there?
Just
I don't
a
really
little
think a whole lot went on yesterday.
bit. Just a little bit. I don't
Oh,
even know
where do you
where to
want to start? Where do you want to start? That's the question.
I don't even know.
We should let's just start with the end of Biden,
Perfect.
right? Let's do this in chronological order.
Yeah. Um. Well, we know that Biden and most of everything that Biden's administration did was obviously corrupt. How do we know
Mm-hmm.
that? Preemptive pardons, right? I mean, that was the end, right? We had, was it the 19th? You sent me a text message and you're like, well, there's the January 6th committee getting pardoned, and there's Fauci and Milley.
Yep.
And I said, yeah. I said, yep. And you said, no brother yet. And I said, oh, that's coming. Word has already been drafted that he had already drafted it and he was waiting until the 20th.
Right. And I
Thought
sent back
as
I sent back that's why I said yet.
yeah, yet. Yeah. And I had heard rumor mill, obviously, but I had heard that there were other pardons that were on the table for other Democrats that were just in the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party who've also done some shady shit, but those never came out.
Nope.
So what did we end up with? We ended up with pretty much the entire Biden family minus Jill and Joe. And we ended up with
And the stripper's daughter.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the stripper's daughter, which is Hunter's daughter, right?
Correct.
Um, everybody else, though, I mean, they were laundering money into. Everyone knows the deal, right? Everyone should know the deal by now. They've been listening long enough. Like Jim Biden, Joe Biden, and Hunter Biden all had tons of business deals through China, through Russia, through Ukraine, through Burisma in Ukraine, and they were making money hand over fist. So Joe pardoned all of them between what 2014, oddly enough, right? So
Yeah.
right when the
Yeah.
deals started.
2014.
So right when the deals first started through today, through yesterday, through the 20th of January yesterday. So he did that. The pardons actually took place while Trump was giving his acceptance speech for the inauguration. They were well timed so that nobody could make
Well,
a comment about it.
yeah, I mean Biden was there, so they didn't happen then. They just didn't release it.
They
Nobody
released
knew.
it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they were done in secret. So Trump never got a chance to say anything about it. I mean, I was just watching Trump during the signing of more executive orders. He was saying, I didn't
Yeah.
know about it till after because
Mm-hmm.
it came up while I was giving my speech.
Mm-hmm.
Which is obviously it's the shady way to go, right? Everybody knew it was coming. I mean, we talked about it. We knew he had to. There was
Mm-hmm.
no choice. He had to freaking
Well,
do
once
it.
he pardoned Hunter, he had to, because then
Yeah.
Hunter has to testify against them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So Hunter can't claim the fifth anymore, and none of them can, to be honest.
Right.
And
Well,
they can all still technically be put on trial. They
yeah,
just
I mean, they
don't
can
get.
all
you got to find a friendly judge that's not gonna let them waste the time, but they might be able to in the interest of the greater good. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, but
I,
that doesn't cover them in states. So if anything happened in Texas, good luck.
no, which I don't know that the
Hunter
hard
lived
part
in
is,
Florida, right? So,
right. The hard part, well, the state crimes are going to be convicted no matter what, right?
hmm
But all of their business dealings were on a federal level, and they're, the Hatch Act and all that crap that they should have been, paying attention to. They didn't.
hmm
Uh, there's tons of stuff that were federal crimes that should have been that will never be a federal crime again,
yep.
and that's a problem. So now it is left to the states. Then on top of that, you got Millie, right? And it doesn't shock me that you pardon Millie, but what does shock me is that Millie required a pardon. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Well,
Um,
and I'm curious, and I guess I'd have to go through the courts. Does that the pardons? I don't know. Does that cover treason? I don't know.
like anything covers treason, to be honest. So, uh, I just don't know. I don't know what the plan with Millie is or was. What Millie
And
has done, not good, right? And this goes all the way back to Trump's first term, right?
right, this is the
So
biggest part of it. It's the talking to Russia behind his back.
undermining the president's
Yeah,
authority in the last,
correct,
couple weeks of his administration.
correct.
And that's never, to my knowledge, that's never really been done before. And that's a
Right.
big deal. And he
hmm
came out and he admitted it.
hmm
So it's not like this was a shocking thing. This is Millie admitting it. And I think they did that. I mean, he came out and admitted it because he thought there's no way Trump could ever. It was open and shut on Trump. They thought they had him under lock and key with
Yeah.
everything they were going after, right?
hmm
And then when things started to fall through and just started to fall apart, their lawfare that they entered into started to fall apart. Their impeachments fell apart,
hmm
and one thing after another started to, go down the tubes, and it only made Trump's support stronger. Uh, that required Milley to reach out to Biden and be like, "Hey, man, you got to pardon me." So Milley received the pardon. Then the next one in line, Anthony Fauci. Now, this is another shocking one. Now we know Fauci's garbage. We know he's a garbage human being. We know what he's done with his AIDS work, which really, if you have read into it, I mean, this motherfucker pretty much invented AIDS, and through testing, pretty much spread AIDS around the world,
hmm
allegedly, if you believe some of the reports, right? So,
hmm
um, and we don't know that that's been reported on widely, but nothing has ever happened to the guy. The guy's Teflon. So, uh, to see him get a pardon for COVID, that's really fucked up. What did he do wrong during COVID? What laws did he break during COVID? Well, we know that he openly lied and misled the government and Trump with the origins of where the virus came from, right? He said it was zoological.
There's a lot of perjury there. Yeah.
A lot of perjury there. It was never zoological. He was before the House and the Senate. I don't know how many times
Yeah.
he lied about the vaccine. He knew ahead of time that the vaccine was going to be ineffective, and he lied. He said it was 100% safe and 100% effective. That was a lie. It was never
hmm
100% safe, and it was never 100% effective.
hmm
And if you remember, after it was not 100% effective, and everybody's like, "Well, I'm vaccinated. I still have COVID." Then it was, "Well, it's 80% effective, but it's completely safe." And then it was, "Well, it's 70%, then 60%." And then they changed it from giving you a percentage of how effective it was, as well, it will keep you from serious hospitalization and death. And then that changed to, "Well, you won't die, but you could be hospitalized still." And then, well, you can die, but you're not going to okay, well, you can transmit it now and you can die, but it's better than the alternative of not having a vaccine. I mean, we went down the whole rabbit hole with
hmm
this guy where it was just lie after lie after lie before Congress, before the House and the Senate, right? Um, lied under oath. He knew ahead of time that the vaccine was hot trash. And he also, under his recommendation, right, they did the whole government mandate for vaccines, which now obviously Trump is bringing all the military guys back in with back pay.
Yep.
And we know we have a couple listeners that are now in the process already um, packing their bags and going back to soon to be
Are
Fort Bragg again.
are they going? They're going back, eh?
They are going back.
Good for them.
So yeah,
Good.
I'm happy for them. I
They
mean,
get rank and grade and
yep, and pet
all
back
that
pay.
shit. Yeah. Good for them.
So that absolutely. So that's kind of neat. But Fauci was the guy who mandated that, right? Or recommended that mandate,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Biden went with it. And how many federal workers, how many nurses, how many doctors, how many all over the country. I mean, since the government mandated it, people jumped in line, right? So how many people lost their jobs because Fauci lied under oath and then recommended that everyone should receive the vaccine? Now, here's the other side of this. Bill Gates is heavily invested in Pfizer and Moderna. Fauci sits on his board of directors for his medical association, right?
Hmm.
And Fauci's wife was the one who signed off on the vaccine to be authorized under emergency use authorization that it was okay. So Fauci stood to make a ton of money, which he did. If you look at his net worth of what it's exploded to now, he made a ton of money under this vaccine. So did Bill Gates. It's no shock that more trillionaires were made in the last 4 years under Biden than in the previous, however many hundreds of years. That has a large to do with the COVID vaccine and everybody investing in technologies and the insider trading that has been taking place that the average person
Hmm.
doesn't get to have, but Fauci and the merry band of fucking corruptocrats do get to have, right?
Hmm.
So of course, Fauci's pardoned, and then we get to the J6 committee.
Hold on. Let's go back to Fauci for a second.
Mhm.
He was pardoned back to 2014
Correct.
when the gain of function started
Mm-hmm.
on COVID.
Right.
The other thing, his wife was not pardoned.
No,
So
no, his wife was not
they
pardoned.
could technically, and I'm not one to go after people just to go after them. However, this was pretty fucked up. And so if she knew anything about his work and still approved it, knowing that it's not, they could still go after her for approving
Right.
it, knowing that it wasn't.
Well, she could always claim that she didn't have any of the knowledge because that was
Yeah,
it's a lie,
she
obviously.
could she could claim that, but then they could get
And,
Fauci in there, and if he doesn't fucking say anything,
right.
they
Well,
can
no,
go back after him.
now you're perjuring yourself, right? And
Yeah,
then
that's
it
that's why I want the investigations. I want these
has
motherfuckers
to.
under oath so that
It
they
has
have a
to.
fucking chance to perjure themselves because they aren't covered now.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah, you
I would
have to.
almost
Yeah,
I would almost guarantee that that's gonna happen.
yeah. I hope so.
I do too. Uh yeah, you're right. It went all the way back to 2014 when he sent the coronavirus that we had
Yep. When he
to the
taught that
Wuhan lab
lab how to do gain of function, he taught them.
with $11 million upgrade through
Mm-hmm.
USAID, right? We gave him
Mm-hmm.
$11 million
Yeah, of course we did.
to to basically make this thing transmittable to humans.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they let that virus out on purpose or not, you did send it to a lab that you knew the safety protocols were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked
There's
about it
at least
before.
negligence there.
Absolutely. And we talked about this before that in terms of weapons of mass destruction, you have the differences, the devastators, the diversions, and the disruptors. And this was kind of a disruption to our normal way of life. Uh, Perfectly in time with the Trump administration really starting to hit its freaking stride in the first 2 years of its
Mm-hmm.
administration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so 2019 hits at the end of 2019. We basically you lose a whole year and a half of Trump due to this virus that came out, and it cost him the election. I do believe it cost him the election.
Yeah, I think so too.
Uh, and the funny thing about all of that, Fauci and all these people before Trump's first uh, election were saying that his administration is going to have to deal with a pandemic, which no one else had ever had to deal with before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, think about that. Say it. They know that he already sent it in 2014 to the freaking Wuhan lab. It's already being worked on.
Hmm.
Then that 2016, 17, they start saying, oh, yeah, they're going to have to deal with this pandemic, the next administration, and it's going to be, worldwide. They'll have to deal with it. They knew it was coming in advance, man. At this stage
Yeah.
of the game, nobody will be able to convince me otherwise, which again, this is scary because they're already saying that again right now about Trump's administration. They're going to have another pandemic and they're going to have another pandemic. So when they say stuff, I've learned now that you should probably listen because they're telling you ahead of time what's
What they're
coming down the
doing.
pipeline. Right.
Yeah,
But
you
that,
can. That's fine. Sorry, the wife's home.
you say it like it's such a bad thing.
It is a bad thing. She tells me what to do all day long.
That's part of the job.
She can't hear you, but she can hear me, and she just yelled at me with her eyes.
I saw.
Yeah, all right.
So
Sorry.
the movement of the J6 committee, right?
Hmm.
They pardoned Liz Cheney, they pardoned Adam Kinzinger, and then they pardoned the whole J6 committee.
Oh, can I
Um,
can I go back one more time? Sorry, to
yeah,
Millie.
yeah,
Can they can strip him, right? The Defense Department should be able to strip him rank and grade, all that, pension,
of his
everything.
pension, yeah,
Yeah, so that needs to happen too.
yeah.
I mean, you
I don't
you
think
literally were committing treason.
I don't know that it will, but that should, and
You
maybe
don't
Trump
think
will go that
Hegseth
far.
will?
I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those get the fuck out, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out,
Yeah, I'm
or
just sick of paying fucking people for
yeah,
being shit.
I agree. And I don't know that Hegseth will, but there's
I saw
no matter what, he's digging into Millie and what Millie has done.
they ripped this picture off the wall. Did you see that tweet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and they should have.
And they left just like the holes in the wall. That's the funniest part about the whole thing.
Yeah,
Like, just like, hey, like a sign. Like,
the military is a much happier military right now
I would
than they
imagine.
were 3 days ago.
I
Uh,
would imagine. Yeah.
you can already start to see the chain of command that aren't
Wife.
corrupt
Yeah.
they're relieved, right? Like finally
Hmm.
the bullshit can end. Let's get back to war fighting. That's
Hmm.
what we're here for.
And he fired the Coast Guard, the person in charge of the Coast Guard. I don't know what their title is.
Yep. Anyone who is a woke DEI, all that bullshit, they're gone.
Hmm.
You don't stand a chance. They're gone.
Hmm. All right.
Uh,
Back to Jan
yeah.
6.
J6. The J6 committee was pardoned. What did they do wrong?
Yeah.
Where do you start?
Yeah. The
Where?
staff and the people on it, the representatives.
Yeah, they pardoned everybody. And why did they pardon everybody? So that there would be no available person left to blow the whistle if they got pinched, right?
Right.
So they pardoned everybody. Um, you look at the list of the shit they did. They omitted evidence, right? They had evidence that could have been used in people's trials. They classified evidence so that defendants in trials couldn't have that evidence,
Yeah.
right? They hid it away. That showed that it wasn't an insurrection. It wasn't violent. It wasn't.
Hmm.
You had some violence of people in the front at the barricades that were on one side of the Capitol. Well, on the other side of the Capitol, the police removed the barricades, walked everybody inside, and let people walk around and basically guided them around. They lied about, and they still are lying about all these officers that have died. That were
Right.
killed during
Yep.
J6. There were no police
Hmm.
officers killed during J6.
Hmm.
One died of natural causes, which was an aneurysm. 3 days later, and that's probably due to the fucking vaccine more than anything else. And
Hmm.
the other one unalived himself because he was dealing with some crap. And then 3 others have unalived themselves since J6, but they gave all those credit of being killed to the the January 6th events. And that's a
Hmm.
lie. The only person who died on January 6th was Ashley Babbitt, who was killed in the Capitol unarmed while one of the Capitol Police protection agents shot her in the neck. We saw the
Well,
video.
yeah. And the other thing I'll say about that is that while he didn't die on Jan 6, there was somebody that committed suicide, hung himself after he was convicted. That should go down as a Jan 6 death as well. Because they fucking went after these people for trespassing and amped it up to whatever the fuck they could, however
We're
they
talking
could,
about
and
a J6er did that.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
One of the people convicted of
Yes.
whatever upcharge they did, he
Yep.
committed suicide after he was convicted.
Yeah. Um, which is crazy. They all just got pardoned today. So
Yeah, they got pardoned yesterday. Well, and the difference between the people that got pardons and the people that got their sentence commuted, those people that got their sentence commuted are the ones that attacked officers. So they did not get a pardon, so that's still on their record. Their sentence was just reduced, essentially,
there's
or
only 6 of
thrown
them.
out. Yeah, there were 6 of them. Correct.
Of
Out of
the
the
six,
1,700.
yes. I heard
Yeah.
1,600 today, and 6 were commuted. 1,600
Okay.
were pardoned, and
I
6
heard.
were commuted.
Yeah, I heard last night. The numbers have been all over the place. It started with
Right.
15, and then late last night I heard up to 1,700 people.
And that should be the case, right? I mean,
Yes.
if you were taking a guided tour through the Capitol building, you're an idiot because you entered the Capitol when you knew what was going on.
Mhm.
All right, fine. People get caught up in that mob thing. They do stuff, whatever. You should not spend the rest of your life behind bars because Adam Schiff and frickin' Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the rest of the fucking corruptocrats want to make an example of you. That's disgusting. So they should have gotten pardoned. I am glad that Trump went in there and he could throw that pardon out.
So
Now, here's the thing, and we've talked about this at nauseum, right? Like we talked about this a lot. Why do people require a pardon, Pat?
they're guilty
They're guilty. They've done
of
something
a
wrong,
crime. Yeah.
of a crime. So,
Mhm.
and I've been seeing these things, and you've been sending a couple to me, and I've been seeing them all over the place. Of like Adam Kinzinger saying that Trump was considering pardoning his kids, and the only reason you would do that is because they've committed crimes.
Yeah.
Trump never
Yeah.
pardoned family. And then you
Yep.
sent me the one today where it was that cat turd had it out there. it was
Yeah.
it was
The-
one of
The best one. Yeah. What did that
about
say? I'll try to pull it up.
Trump was going to pardon Don, Ivanka, and his other son. And what was it? Yeah. Oh, Trump's considering this. You know why? Because they're guilty. You know who isn't guilty? Who isn't guilty of a crime? Hunter Biden.
Hunter
Yeah,
Biden
okay.
doesn't need a pardon. You know who doesn't need a
Yeah.
pardon? Hunter Biden. Oh, yeah. How'd that work out? The fucking Trump kids have been subpoenaed more than anyone else in the world.
Right. And at this rate, like, if there were any serious crimes that they could have gotten the Trump organization, that they could have gotten Don, Eric, or Ivanka, or Jared Kushner, if there were any crimes that they could have gotten them on, they would have. They would have.
Mhm.
There just isn't any. They have to manufacture them and make them up. Right? I mean, it's just it's so disgusting what we saw. But this is all over the place. People are just in panic mode, freaking out now because here we are. Look at what's taking place. I mean, the majority of Americans have spoken. They no longer want woke. They no longer want DEI. They no longer want this bullshit. They knew that Biden was a mushhead. They knew that the Democrats were starting to become corrupt. They knew, they could see it, right? They could see the lies. They could see the money going to Ukraine. And we knew where it was going. Oh, all this money is being lost in Ukraine. And all of a sudden, boom, fucking Kamala's coffers she makes $1 billion over the course of 2 or 3 weeks. $1 billion she's raised. Oh, I wonder where that money came from. Oh, it's ridiculous. People aren't stupid. They're seeing where all this is going and what's being done, right? And it's kind of funny because the worst thing I think you could have done as Joe Biden was to pardon the J6 committee, because it makes everything look like it's guilty, like everybody's guilty, like Trump was right all along, and that what you just did was shady to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's something else. All right, so I do want to touch on a couple things
Yeah.
still with pardons and whatnot. I want to read Joe Biden's the letter he attached to the pardons. because it's
Oh, the pardons for everybody that didn't do anything wrong but got a pardon for all their crimes.
yes, that's exactly it.
That letter, got it.
Let me find it here.
Hmm.
Okay, so here it is. This is his explanation. Our nation relies on dedicated, selfless public servants every day. They are the lifeblood of our democracy. Yet alarmingly, public servants have been subjected to ongoing threats and intimidation for faithfully discharging their duties. In certain cases, some have even been threatened with criminal prosecutions, including General Mark A. Milley, Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, and the members and staff of the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. These public servants have served our nation with honor and distinction and do not deserve to be the targets of unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions. He goes on to talk about General Milley here. He says, General Milley served our nation for more than 40 years, serving in a multitude of command and leadership posts and deploying to some of the most dangerous parts of the world to protect and defend democracy. As chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he guided our armed forces through complex global security threats and strengthened our existing alliances while forging new ones. For more than half a century, Dr. Fauci served our country. He saved countless lives by managing the government's response to pressing health crisis including HIV/AIDS, as well as the Ebola and Zika viruses. During his tenure as my chief medical advisor, he helped the country tackle a once in a century pandemic. The United States is a safer and healthier place because of him. On January 6, 2021, American democracy was tested when a mob of insurrectionists attacked the Capitol in an attempt to overturn a fair and free election by force and violence. In light of the significance of that day, Congress established the Bipartisan Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol, to investigate and report upon the facts, circumstances, and causes of the insurrection. The Select Committee fulfilled this mission with integrity and a commitment to discovering the truth. Rather than accept accountability, those who perpetrated the January 6th attack have taken every opportunity to undermine and intimidate those who participated in the Select Committee in an attempt to rewrite history, erase the stain of the January 6th for partisan gain, and seek revenge, including by threatening criminal prosecutions. Here's the best part. I believe in the rule of law, and I'm optimistic that the strength of our legal institutions will ultimately prevail over politics. But these are exceptional circumstances, and I cannot, in good conscience, do nothing. Baseless and politically motivated investigations wreak havoc on the lives, safety, and financial security of targeted individuals and their families, even when the individuals have done nothing wrong, and in fact have done the right thing and will ultimately be exonerated. The mere fact of being investigated or prosecuted can irreparably damage reputations and finances. That is why I'm exercising my authority under the Constitution to pardon General Mark A. Milley, Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, and the members of the Congress and staff who served on the Select Committee and the U.S. Capitol and D.C. Metropolitan Police officers who testified before the Select Committee. The issuance of these pardons, who should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing, nor should acceptance be misconstrued as an admission of guilt for any offense. Our nation owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment to our country. Wow, huh?
Yeah, I mean that's there's a lot to take in there.
Well, this guy is the same guy, Biden is, who also gave
Mm-hmm.
George Soros the Medal of fucking Freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And then complained about the oligarchies.
right. And then
Yeah.
complain about oligarchies. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's complaining about dark money and oligarchies. He's giving the lead fucking example of dark money and oligarchs, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. This is the same shit. I mean, it's laughable that he has this. Now, I read that because the pardons went out there and it was kind of telling, if you will. But then something else happened that I kind of chuckled about because this is also very telling. Um, I was the funny thing is I was going to send it to you, and then you beat me, and you sent it to me.
Hmm.
This is a tweet by the wife of Alexander Vindman. Alexander Vindman was the star witness in the first impeachment, the Ukrainian phone call impeachment of Trump
The
back in
whistleblower
the whistleblower back in
who
2017. Now,
wasn't on the call.
so if you know anything about this case, right, the whistleblower was not on the call, and they filed a whistleblower complaint. Well, back in the day, you couldn't file a whistleblower complaint against the president of the United States. That just wasn't allowed. They had to have the IG change the form to allow a whistleblower to change to the whistleblower about the president of the United States. Well, they changed the form the first time, but they forgot to figure out was what they had forgotten to figure out was the IG changed the form to say, yes, a whistleblower can come out and give a direct complaint against the president of the United States if he has direct information. But Alexander Vindman didn't have direct information. He had second information because he heard it from somebody, he heard it from a friend who, heard it from a friend, right?
Yeah.
And so he ended up, they had to go back and change the form a second time. And this is all, well, they had people locked in the basement of the Capitol building and they were trying to figure out what the fuck they were going to do. And no Republicans were allowed. And the sergeant at arms was guarding the door so that Adam Schiff and the merry band of fucking morons who were on the J6 committee could figure out how to impeach President Trump with a third-hand knowledge of a phone call and that whole spiel, right? Okay, so this is the wife of the whistleblower. Wife of Alexander Vindman, the Democrat star witness for Trump's impeachment, says her family wasn't offered any pardons, and she's very hurt by it. Is there something her family would need a pardon for? Question mark. And here's her tweet, right? Or her ex. Whatever happens to my family, know this. No pardons were offered or discussed. I cannot begin to describe the level of betrayal and hurt I feel. Now, she's terrified that her husband is going to be gone after because he can be. What do you think Alexander Vindman is going to do when he's a slimeball. He's a scumbag. He's going to turn over and he's going to be like, no, they did this, they did that, they did this, right? And it's going to come back down and it's going to haunt the Democrats. Yeah.
Because I think I sent it to you, which is why I said they should just offer him immunity.
Absolutely. And go after him.
I don't care about these low level people that whatever.
Nope.
Like they're going to get ruined with everything that comes out anyways. So
I would have to look into Adam Schiff's pardon, but I think it has to do with all the J6 activities. It doesn't have to do with the first impeachment trial and the lying and all the stuff that he did with that. Can you imagine if they go after and they're able to nail these guys for the first impeachment? I mean, oh boy.
Well,
that's a problem.
Technically, and I'm no legal scholar.
I know where you're going with this.
Can't you go after him for trying to overthrow a president?
Yes. And here's the other deal. If a president's first term is affected by an illegal impeachment, their first term can be considered null and void, and he can do another 2 terms. So if they go after and they find that Adam Schiff is corrupt and they went after his first term and they can argue that there was damage to it, what he could get done in his first term, which there would be damage because they lost the House.
They lost the whole 2 years.
Correct. So that first term could be considered null and void. He could end up being the 47th and the 48th president of the United States. He could serve 12 years instead of 4 or 8.
He doesn't become the 48th. He still would just be the 45th and 47th, right?
Correct.
I know his term
12 years instead of the 8, because the first 4 would be.
Is that where is that?
Who did I just watch that was talking about that?
Because I tried to look that up and I could not find it.
It was Tom Fitton who did it. I don't know where. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, we'll have to research that a little bit when we go back to work.
Very interesting if that were the case. Now, on top of the pardons with all this Biden stuff, also I saw another legal expert. Because can those pardons be undone? And the answer it's hard to say yes and no there. Like it really comes down to a court deciding one way or the other, and it eventually is going to make it all the way up to the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court's going to have to decide if you can have a blanket pardon for no listed crimes.
Correct. Now, riddle me this, okay?
Yeah.
Joe Biden didn't pardon himself.
Correct, but what happened the last time? He basically got off free because they said he's too old. No one's going to convict him.
Okay. So let's say you put Joe Biden on the stand. You actually, as Donald Trump, go after Joe Biden for the crimes. What's Joe Biden's defense going to be?
Well, see, okay, so I know where you're going, and that's kind of the same place I was going to. Nancy Pelosi also didn't get a pardon. So
correct.
if you have to have all these people testify because they can no longer claim the fifth,
Correct.
or they commit perjury, or it's obstruction of Congress if they do it in Congress, investigate that way. You could, if the courts won't allow you to go after one person because of a blanket pardon, you go after Biden and drag them all into it and have them all admit to what they did. And then that's in the public. And then you don't obviously you're not going to get a conviction. You're not going to. But
So
it's out there.
there's the potential when you bring Biden up on his charges that they will say something along the lines of, well, Biden, you can't hold him accountable. He's
Mm-hmm.
mentally, he's not there.
Right. And then the
He
challenge
has
to
no idea
pardons.
reckless.
Yep.
And then you challenge the pardons, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
those pardons then would be null and void, or you could argue they should be null and void, because if he is not able to stand trial or be convicted because of his mental capacity, mental acuity that he currently has, how then could he ever be of solid, mind to be able to issue a pardon? So pardons could become in question. So now there's some legal experts that are saying, okay, well, for Trump to overthrow the Biden pardons, one thing he can do is bring Biden before the court and basically, uh, much like they tried to impeach Trump after he got out of office, you could claim the 25th Amendment on Biden after he leaves the office to try to overthrow his pardons, and you're doing it through legal, like try to prosecute Biden, basically.
But then
And so there
you'd
are
have-
avenues to get rid of these. It's tough.
Yeah. You'd have to look at that's a can of worms, because then where does it start? And then every order that he gave from that would then be
Yes.
not an order.
Correct.
So
Now we know-
where would the start date be?
Well,
The
we
debate?
know people finally are coming clean about, and this would really be a can of worms. You're right, because
Well, there's
we've
going to
had
be books.
we had several come clean about his cognitive decline, and when it was really starting to go downhill, and even in the media they started admitting it. Okay, yeah, it was around this time, it was around that time, but you would have to have an investigation to go back to see when it would take place. And remember, Biden had that over his 4 years. He had when he refused to take that cognitive test that President Trump had to take. Remember, Biden refused to take it.
Mhm.
They wouldn't let him. They wouldn't let him take it. So that was 2 years ago
Mhm.
that took place, and Trump jumped up over that. And Trump's doctor, was it Ronnie Jackson, said,
Yeah, he was a senator or a representative now.
yeah. And he came out and he said, hey, when Trump took this thing, he was sharp as a tack. And I think it was Joe Biden confused two different animals that were very simple animals and whatever. And that's when they're like, yeah, he's not taking any more of this crap. Right. So,
Mhm.
I mean, who knows how far back it would go, but it would be a can of worms that would be ugly to open. And I don't even know that Trump would do it. Trump might just take the win and move forward. But if you want to dismantle all the things, like, here's the shitty thing, right? The American public deserves justice for what's been done to them
Correct.
under Biden and Fauci and Milley and the J6 committee. All these people deserve justice. And we have seen the two-tiered justice system for far too long. And in the last 4 years, we've seen the corrupt justice system where they go after the J6 people and Trump and try to, rebrand what justice is going to be, justice for thee and not for me type thing. Like the same thing we saw during COVID, rules for thee and not for me. The American public wants to see justice at some point. We want to see the Epstein list. Show us the fucking Epstein list. We want to see the black book. If there's senators and congressmen from either fucking side of the aisle that took part in this, they're gone. We don't care. America is ready for fucking justice. The P. Diddy list, the fucking Epstein list, the Abercrombie and Fitch list, all of those. We want them out. We want them public. There's no more hiding behind fucking closed doors of being disgusting and hiding. Let's go. Let's get it done. And we're not going to see that unless they start to do these things, right? Unless they start to expose the truth. And I'm hoping Trump will do it, but Trump may just be like, okay, we got to put this cat in the bag and leave it, because in order to get my agenda through and the things I want to do, I'm going to lose half my support in the House and Senate, and I won't be. They're going to hold my agenda hostage, so I can't release these certain things, and that's fucking ridiculous. If that's the way they're going to go, that's a big problem. And why is that a big problem? Because at some point, society will decide to take justice into their own hands. At some point, right? You got in office and you promised these things. Elon helped you and promised these things. Others listened to both you, listened to Elon. You used Elon to help propel you forward into the Oval Office. If you don't fucking release the list of the disgusting fucks that, you know, children, if you don't do that, it's going to be bad. Because
Yeah.
the last time a guy decided to take justice into his own hands, he used a shitty pistol with a suppressor on it, and he shot a fucking healthcare, CEO, insurance CEO in the fucking back twice
Mhm.
and ran off. You're going to see more of that. You are going to see a lot more of that if you don't fucking start holding people accountable for what they've done. Period. End of story. You have to. Americans are sick of it. They're already sick of it. And I'm not just talking about like people on the right. There's people on the left too. They're sick of watching rich people get away with shit and have nothing happen to them. So you
Yeah,
got to do something.
I just think you don't do anything. I'm hopeful that it wasn't done because they don't have Pam Bondi as attorney general. They don't have the FBI, Cash Patel in the FBI. They don't have anyone. They've got Secretary of State. So until they get their people in there so that it doesn't get botched somehow, I'm hopeful that it'll happen as soon as they get in. But until then
You're probably right.
I wouldn't count on anything.
You're probably right, and maybe it will. It better. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I think
It better.
Pam Bondi will do it by herself. I don't think you need Cash.
I did see that Trump is going to release the classified information behind MLK, JFK, and RFK's assassinations.
Yep, he announced that. Yeah, they announced that yesterday.
That's massive.
He's going to release
Um,
all the whole file, is
yeah,
from what I understand.
everything.
Yep.
And just today or yesterday, he was asked during the signing of the executive orders about the drones,
Yep.
and he
Yep.
turned to what's her face?
Susie Wiles,
Yep,
the
and he
new
said,
chief
"Hey,
of staff.
Susie, can we figure out let's just get that and release it to the public. Just find that. Let's do that as soon as we can, okay?" And she's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, he
"Yep,
said immediately. I want to know
immediately."
immediately. Yeah.
And so that's going to be exposed. So if it's a government program, he's going to tell people. If it's something the Chinese are doing, he's going to tell people. And
Hmm.
this is what transparency is supposed to look like.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is like not a political answer. Everybody gets, whether you're in your professional life or you're freaking watching TV or the news media, you always get a fucking political answer. Have you noticed that? You
Hmm.
ask a question of a manager, you get a fucking political answer. You ask a
Hmm.
question of the media, you get a fucking political answer. You ask the fucking question to the politicians, you get a fucking political answer. Nobody wants to just give you the truth and put it out there for you to decide. So it's very refreshing to already see that, right? Um, and that can absolutely have a trickle down effect where finally people are like, "Oh, it's okay to tell the truth again." Oh, okay,
Hmm.
cool. So hopefully that's where we start this trend and that continues to Trump. It feels like it will be, right?
Yeah, it
But
feels like it will be. Just based on the executive orders and executive actions. They said I think they said there's going to be 200 executive orders. There was
mhm,
not even close to 200 executive orders. What there was 200 executive actions, and each
yep,
one of those EOs contained multiple executive order actions, right? So,
right,
um, there was a pile of executive orders, and you can check them out on whitehouse.gov. They have them all listed there.
yep,
Uh, but I want to go back to one other pardon that Biden did that we didn't really talk about, and that
okay,
was Leonard Peltier, the Native American activist who was
yeah. The Covington kid,
found. What? No,
was he the guy for the Covington kid?
no. This guy murdered two FBI agents in
Oh yeah,
a Yeah, I'm not. I don't really know a whole lot about it. I have been trying to look it up, but there's been people on the left that have been celebrating it, like that he's getting out, whatever, and it something to do with the evidence at court. And so I've been trying to look it up, but now I found a thing that said 22 federal judges have reviewed the evidence in the case and all reached the same conclusion that this guy killed these two federal agents and that his convictions stand, right? So there's 22 federal judges that have all reviewed it. And
Yeah.
I am not one to support the FBI on some of the stuff. Like they do shady shit all the time.
Mhm.
And it wouldn't shock me back in the day that they were trying to go after, Native American activists, right?
Of course they
Like
were.
you're gonna come out, they're gonna come out with the FBI or with the files that MLK was killed by somebody in the U.S. government.
Mhm.
RFK, JFK, same thing.
Yep.
So it wouldn't shock me if the FBI wasn't clean on this, but if 22 federal judges have reviewed the case, you would think that one of them would have said, I think there's an issue here, if there
Right. I mean,
was.
it comes down to a couple of things. I agree with you. You'd think that that should take place, right? Like
Hmm.
if it wasn't on the up and up, somebody would have said it by
At
now.
some point, especially in this day.
But I think it comes down to also what judges are taking that up, right? Like this guy is people the activist groups that are trying to free these people, they've been putting these pardons in front of presidents for the last, you know, however many years, right? So Trump had this guy too.
Hmm.
I'm sure that Obama had him too. I'm
Sure.
sure others,
Yeah.
and Biden finally was like, "Yep, I'm going to sign it." And honestly, it kind of has to. Don't you think it kind of it has to get to a point like because these things come across these presidents' desks every 4 years when they're leaving office, right?
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
commute sentences and they pardon. So like all the good ones had to have already been taken. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
all the ones that like
yeah.
maybe there's a chance they're not fucking they didn't
Hmm.
do it. So it doesn't surprise me that 22 judges are like, hey man, this guy's fucking guilty. And Biden's like, well, I gotta fucking pardon somebody. I gotta make it look good. These people are activists, and I'm the most fucking,
Hmm.
far left president there's ever been. So he's Native American. Get him out of there.
Yeah. So okay, so I need to clean that up a little bit. What I said, he wasn't pardoned, the sentence was commuted, which
Okay.
means that you did it, right? But they're reducing your
They're
sentence
reducing your sentence.
because they're not getting rid of the crime or the conviction
Yep.
like a pardon would. So why are you doing that?
Well,
You
again,
killed two federal agents and you're gonna get your sentence commuted?
bro, hold on a second. You have to understand these are politicians, right? They don't care if you're a soldier. They don't care if you're a police officer. They don't care if you're a firefighter. They don't care if you're a federal agent. They don't care. You're a number. If you're anyone's a number to them. They're willing to send thousands of soldiers to their death for profit. Like they don't
No,
care. They don't give two
100%.
shits.
Yeah, I agree
So
with
if
that.
this could like lend to the credibility of your legacy or make people think better of you, politicians have no problem saying those two lives don't matter. These lives do. I mean, look what they've done at the southern border over the last,
Yeah, I
however
guess, but
long,
his
right?
legacy's fucked anyways.
Right. And that's to him, it's one of those things where honestly, as well as I do, Biden wasn't making any decisions. Some activist
Yeah,
behind him
yeah.
was setting this in front of his staffers, and his staffers were making decisions. So if you have a whole bunch of activists like he did in his administration, this makes perfect sense. The guy's
Yeah.
a Native American. It's DEI, everything you've done for the last 40 years. This fucking
Mhm.
guy put more trans people in the military. I mean, we've talked about a ton about what trans can do in the Middle East in the military. It solidifies what the belief against us is for a jihadist, right? So I mean, this guy, there's no thought process behind it. They're just like, oh yeah, woke, 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 DEI, DEI, DEI. So yeah, I mean, this totally makes sense. And his waning, moments of his failing presidency, he is the worst president that we have ever had. I mean, Jimmy Carter took a big sigh of relief and could die a happy man, knowing he was no longer considered the worst president that has ever, graced the Oval Office with their presence. This guy is that guy. This is him, and it's not even all Biden's fault. Like the guy had dementia. He couldn't do it. He
Mhm.
didn't have the capacity, and others took full advantage. Right? He was an empty vessel that was filled up by whatever activist was in control at the time. Whatever staffer, they just put shit in front of him and said, "Sir, this is this. Sign it." And he did. He had no idea what half of it was. And that's the problem. That's why you're starting to see pundits and like figureheads in the media saying it's nice to see we finally have a president again, because Donald Trump is in charge. And it's obvious he is in charge, right? As he's signing the executive orders yesterday, he's taking questions from the media and he's laying out his agenda, talking about executive orders and how important they are and what needs to be done. Biden could never have done that. And people saw that, right? Like, he was not there. He was an empty vessel being filled up by whoever had power, whoever was controlling the strings at the time. So it makes perfect sense to me that somebody snuck this in there, as well as others, right? I mean, the J6 committee and all those things. Biden didn't think on his own to do that. Like, he could barely read the speeches from a teleprompter. So I don't know. But those orders and actions are out for people to see, like you said, on the .gov website. But here's a couple just offhand that are pretty important. Border and immigration. That's a big one, right? Reducing inflation. That's another one. The trade and tariffs. That's basically
the 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada.
And he's looking, and that this executive order is basically in order to study all trade deals that took place from the time of Trump to Biden to see if we're being taken advantage of again, right?
Yeah.
The WHO withdrawal, the World Health Order.
That's a big one.
That's a massive one. The Climate Pact exit, which is another big one.
Yeah,
because this
Paris Climate Accord.
Yep, and that's another one further down than where we actually leave again. The national emergency, or the national energy emergency, right? To deal with our energy crisis that we're coming up to.
Yeah.
That's a big one. The Inflation Reduction Act, end of EV agenda, right? Get rid of all vehicles have to be electric vehicles by, was it 2052 or whatever it was? So
yeah, the EV mandate's gone.
The federal bureaucracy, DOGE, that one, right?
Yeah, renamed another agency that was already in existence. So like those, I sent you the text. There's 3 lawsuits filed at 12:01, the moment he took office, and saying that DOGE wasn't organized correctly according to some statute or whatever, but he just renamed another agency, so that's gone.
They just repurposed an agency.
Yeah. Yep. It was some like digital thing.
If people don't see this by now, Trump's playing fucking 4D chess. This is chess. And I mean, think about this. Biden, you know, like you can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico for oil. All right, fine. You're right. I won't drill in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to drill in the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
I'll just rename the bitch and yours will be null and void. And now I'll drill in the Gulf of America. That's the type of 4D chess that Trump is playing, right? And people don't get it. He's a businessman. He knows how to get through the red tape because he's done it his entire fucking career. And that's what we need. And first of all, there shouldn't be the red tape to begin with, but that's what we need. And that's what we're getting.
Yeah. So just to spin off that a little bit, Trump is clearly smart. He is able to talk for hours on every topic. He has the smartest people in the world with him right now.
Yeah.
Setting this stuff up. So it is not just Trump. Like, that's what I think people are going to find out the hard way. It's not just Trump.
No, and that's
like, you may think he's stupid because he says dumb things that you don't like sometimes. Guess what? He's not. And there's smarter people than him behind the scenes. And they're not even behind the scenes anymore. Elon is out there with everyone. Motherfucker can catch rockets with chopsticks.
Oh, that's fake. I can't.
I know. You keep saying that's fake. It's not fake, bro. We're going to go see it one day.
Bro, like, we have to see that. We're going. We're
going to go.
There's no way. Yeah, I watched that and I'm like, no way. Fuck that. That's not
from
real.
the
That's
first
witchcraft.
one. I showed you the first one. You're like, that's CGI.
That's no way. That's not even possible. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the hallmark of a great leader isn't what they do on their own, right? The hallmark of a great leader is the ability to know where their weaknesses are and to strengthen themselves with those around him and have the ability and the not be so prideful that you can't listen to those below you to take
100%.
advice,
To
right?
know where you need help.
Your strengths and weaknesses, right? And
Yes.
Trump has built a business, a dynasty, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
off of this exact thing. He'll make the decision once he gets people that are extremely intelligent to give him the information,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to ask. The beautiful thing about Trump is he doesn't just ask one person. He'll look over at the most junior person in the room and say, like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" He
Right.
wants all takes. He wants to know, right?
Which is why all the generals got pissed at him, because he was
Correct.
asking enlisted people, "Hey, what do you
Yes.
think about this?"
Right. And that's, I mean, how dare you subvert my position of authority? I'm a general.
100%.
I am a general, damn it. I
Mm-hmm.
have worked my ass off and sucked a lot of dick to get to this point. And for all of you enlisted guys who could ever hear, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Um, but yeah, I mean that is the absolute hallmark of a good leader. And yeah, if you're one of those people that are like, "Well, Trump's an idiot. He'll never be able to do this," you're right. They're complete fools. They have no idea who's behind him. They don't even know like it's fake. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
catch that rock. There's no fucking way that rocket came down ass first and just no way. It's not that's not real.
It just hovered there for a minute while it lined up with
No,
the tower. You just
yeah,
can't
that's
get
not.
over that.
I
You
can't. No,
can
I
you can
can't.
watch them. You don't think the drone ship out in the ocean talking to the other one when it lands on that's real? But you don't
What?
think they could catch the like all those other rockets. They land on a drone ship.
No, no, I don't. That's not real either.
You don't
What?
man,
What?
you need to
Hold
start
on a
looking
second.
into SpaceX.
I yeah, I told you before, space is not my thing. Like I've just totally given up on like
They
that kind of
have
thing. Because
they have drone ships that go out
wait,
to the
hold,
middle of the
stop,
ocean.
stop, stop, stop,
Hold
stop,
on.
stop, stop,
Yeah.
stop. Drone ships,
Yes.
like non-piloted.
Autonomous. Correct.
Yeah, all right, okay. No way. Now this is another video you're gonna have to show me.
They sync. I'll show you at work tomorrow.
Okay.
They sync up. They basically talk with each other so that the booster lands on the drone
No.
ship.
So it's like what we watched, but it lands on a ship.
Yeah, in the ocean, and it's
Yeah,
fine.
no,
Every
that's
once in a
witchcraft.
while, they explode, but for the most part, they
Yeah,
catch them.
dude. No, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to go see that one in person too. All right, moving on. No, back to his executive orders. You're looking down at your phone. You're sending me videos right now. I can tell.
Okay, so I'm not. Yeah, I'll send this to you, but it's about they just had a prayer service today
Oh,
at the National Cathedral. And this says, watch the moment Trump and Vance hear the part of the sermon that includes a call to protect gay, lesbian, and transgender children and illegal aliens. Like Vance just looks up like, what did they just say? Like
oh my God.
I'll send it to you. We'll talk about it
Yeah,
later.
we'll talk about that one too. So here we go. No government censorship. Sign that one. That's
Mhm.
a big thing.
Yeah.
Exposing abuse. That is a
Yep.
massive one. That's going to be good.
So that's gonna be your list.
Mhm.
Right. So
It should be.
that's why I'm saying like I just don't think the people are in place yet that it's
I hope you're right, dude. I hope you're right. I hope that it's not so much I think Trump will not release it as I think that the Republicans in the House and the Senate will say, no, you can't release these. We're not going to vote for anything you put forward. That's my worry, right? Because they're still corrupt folks on both sides of the aisle.
sure, but it's
All right.
Trump. He ain't gonna let
It's
that
true.
fly.
I hope you're
Oh,
right.
I can't. Here you go. Here it is right now.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see him doing that too.
Yeah.
Security clearance is stripped. That's another one. He already pardoned this one, pardoned for the J6. He already did that. The TikTok reprieve. I will tell you, I had a house full of girls here
Yeah.
on the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
And when TikTok went down, they were all freaking out, all of them, right? And I said, well, you guys relax. It'll be up by tomorrow morning. Trump will put the reprieve in place and it'll come back. It'll be up and they'll figure it out. And something's going to come down the pipe. Someone will either take control of it or buy it, whatever.
They
I
need
said,
51% or whatever.
It's going to happen. Relax. And they're I mean, oh, I've never seen so many girls that were just up in arms about not having TikTok anymore because they
Hmm.
can't dance. They
Hmm.
can't do their stupid little dances on TikTok anymore. And I was probably like 4 hours it was down. And then my daughter came in and she's like, Dad, it's back up. And I said, Yeah, I told you. It
Yeah.
things are going to be different come 20th. Just
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah. He told them, don't worry about it. You can start it back up. We won't go
Yeah,
after you.
right. Uh the DEI targeted, that one's a good one. Um, we need to get rid of DEI. You
Hmm.
shouldn't
Well,
be
there was
doing
another one.
anything.
Was that the one called the merit-based hiring or whatever? Or
Yes,
was there
yes.
another one including the DEI
That's
one?
the merit based is another one. It's separate, but
Oh, it's a separate one.
there's
Same thing.
several that handle, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
specific areas, right?
Yeah.
The two sexes policy.
Yeah.
The government only recognize two sexes from
Mm-hmm.
this point forward.
Mm-hmm.
Name changes. I'm not really sure what that one is, but there's that one, and then the
I don't
list of executive
name
actions.
changes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, here I'll.
We'll go
This
back.
might be
I don't want to go over
military bases.
the military bases and Denali and
Yeah,
Mount
Dallas
McKinley.
Mountains, and yep. So
Yeah.
they're gonna go back. All the names are going back to what they
Hmm.
were,
Yeah.
which is
Uh,
good.
I don't want to briefly go over that security clearance one. So the 50
Okay?
people that said that the Hunter Biden laptop was
Yeah, they should have their
Russian
security clearance revoked.
disinformation, that yep, everybody just lost their security clearance.
Yeah.
And so did and John Bolton
And I don't think people fully understand. Like once you're in that position of power, you don't get you have your clearance still
forever.
forever. You can still go into any skiff, sign in, and go review stuff, and that's a problem because
Yeah, they all work for
what
media.
right. So they're
Hmm.
leaking, right? They're all
Hmm.
saying whatever they want to say. And
Hmm.
you're already seeing it right now. Who was it that just had a leak? Was it Doge? Somebody already in the Trump atmosphere already had a leak.
Oh,
And
it was about the raids, right, in Chicago.
oh, that's what it was. The
Yeah, I think
freaking
that was a holdover because that happened a couple days
of course it
before.
is.
Yeah,
Of course it is.
yeah.
Holman,
Then
and they're still going
they'll
through.
find it. They'll find it.
Mhm.
That was
But
somebody in
I mean,
charge of that was probably the person in charge of the
oh
Chicago
yeah,
area
I
that
wouldn't doubt it.
yeah, that
I
knows
wouldn't
that they're
doubt it.
done anyway. So
But it's kind of nice to see. Just see all the people that have self-deported.
no.
Yeah, so it started on Friday. There was a caravan of about 1,500 people who went back across the border into Mexico. Like, yeah, we're not waiting around to be snatched up and taken. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're self-deporting now, so they know what's happening.
Yeah.
Uh, which is good because Trump also there's a bunch of people from India who are here illegally. He's sent them. India's taken them back. Pakistan's taken some people back who are here illegally. So it's kind of funny because somebody said these countries aren't just going to willingly allow people to return. And the answer to
Yes,
that
they
is,
are.
yeah, exactly. The
Hmm.
answer to that is, oh, we'll airdrop them to you. You will have them one way or the other. Like they're coming home. Uh, so it's just up to you how you want them back. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like that argument, I always laugh at people when they make that. Why would they just take them back? Do you know how much fucking money we give these countries? They'll
Right.
fucking take them back.
Of course they will, or you're cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Picture of Baron.
Yeah, it's like a giant.
The kid is a giant,
He's
man.
6'9", something like that.
Yeah. And did you see his IQ score? Yeah, the kid is a genius. It blows my mind that, you know, aren't all Trump's kids freaking like super smart?
Yeah, they are.
It's
Hmm.
it's surprise well, it does shouldn't surprise us based off what you're seeing with Trump, but it's just a 6'9" giant genius. And he looks like he's about as gentle a giant as you could possibly get.
Yeah, for sure. He does. He looks like dude, he's gonna be a politician or he's gonna rule the world one day. One of the two.
His
but he
uh
he was the one that convinced his dad to do all the podcasts.
oh yeah,
Uh, like I,
he sees it.
he's a freshman in college, bro, and
Yeah.
he's got it fucking pegged.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's a smart kid. I thought I read something about him and Elon having conversations about space exploration and stuff, and Elon had said something like, "Kid's pretty smart." Yeah, for Elon to be like, "Yeah, that kid's pretty
Yeah,
smart,"
yeah.
you know,
Hey, you don't
it's
need
something,
to go to college. Why don't you come work at SpaceX?
right? You're already. Why don't you just come over here? Yeah, good stuff, man. What else?
Well, you're going through a list of we
That was
kind of
it.
got
That was the list I
sidetracked on
had.
the list, and we what did you
I mean,
get?
I finished up with what I had on the list.
The back to work, the no more federal workers working from home.
No, I did not.
Yeah, that one. Remain in Mexico. The two
Yep,
emergencies, the energy and at the border.
we got that one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
I mean,
I
he
mean, there was a
basically
bunch, but there was. I mean, the first five that he signed at the Capitol were just a continuation of government, right? So the
right.
one was for all of his nominations for secretaries or cabinet positions. The the one was for all the acting people until those get filled. Like so,
Mhm.
those first five that they signed at the Capitol, those weren't. Those are the same five everyone signs.
Yeah, they're normal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's he did what he needed to be done. I mean, he put all of his previous immigration policies back in place, and he gave
Mm-hmm.
Holman the power to go after whoever he wants
Mm-hmm.
for deportation. And Holman's going to. Holman's going to start cleaning shit up.
Well, like
I
Holman said,
bet.
they're targeting criminals. However, if other people get rounded up in there, they're going
So
back
be it.
too. Like
So be it.
it's not like, oh, you're not a criminal, you can stay. You're here
Well,
illegally.
I have a sneaking suspicion that Trump is no fool,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. And a lot of the voters from the African American community, from the black community that voted for Trump were pissed off because their elected officials let immigrants come in and push them out of stuff, right? So you're seeing the first immigration action happening in Chicago. I bet you're going to see one in Chicago and New York, and then I bet you're going to see one in where was it? It was in Colorado, right? The immigrants had pushed people out of their apartments.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see that. Then you're going to see the
Oh,
Haitians. You're going to see
there was an EO about that. The immigrant gangs or the
yes,
illegal alien gangs that have
correct.
been taking over. So there was a separate EO for that.
Well, he's basically put the cartel on the terrorist watch list.
Yep.
We're going after the cartels. They better watch out because it's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. And he's already said that there's the potential for special operations forces to be used against cartels. And he said Mexico's not going to like that, but I really don't care what Mexico thinks. It's pretty much, I'm paraphrasing there, but that's pretty much what he said and what he meant. So buckle up. It could get pretty interesting here in the next, you know, very near future for actions against the cartel. Uh, yeah. What else? Did you see Lawrence O'Donnell? What he had said about veterans?
All right. I don't think heard that one. I heard something else that he had done, but
So Lawrence
go ahead.
O'Donnell is an anchor or a figurehead for the MSNBC, right? They're a really reputable network. Uh, he came out because Trump was saying that in one of his this is before the inauguration. Trump was saying in an interview that Holman is going to be given the ability to go after immigrants because we can't have it. It's too dangerous, right? So Lawrence O'Donnell did this giant piece on how nobody from the border has committed a single act of terror against the United States who's come through the southern border. And he said, but people who have committed acts of terror in the United States are veterans. And he went on to say that veterans are far more likely to cause an act of terrorism than anybody coming across the southern border. That's a bold statement with an open border to make. Obviously, it's asinine, and all it is it's just fighting back against Donald Trump's policies, or slapping back, hitting back, if you will. But I saw that, and that immediately pissed me off because to say that veterans are far more likely to bring out or carry out acts of terrorism than people coming across the southern border. What's your basis for that, right?
Hmm.
What is your what is your metric that you're deciding that upon, right? So Angry Cop did a take on this, and he didn't go as far as I wish he would have. So I got some figures here too.
Okay.
Since the 1960s, there's been 1,600 acts of terrorism against the United States, both domestic and abroad. 1,600 acts, instances of terrorism.
Can I
Okay,
ask you a question before you continue?
sure.
What are they defining as a terrorist act? Is it like a school shooting, or is
Nope,
it
this
like
does not
okay,
include mass shootings. This does not
okay,
include
okay,
uh, any of that.
all right.
Um, However, I did include those in my figures
Hmm.
because if I did, there would be very few that were veteran involved, if that makes any
Okay,
sense.
yeah, I got you.
Okay, so 1,600 acts of terrorism in the United States from the 1960s until now. Some of those acts in the 1960s through the 1970s were conducted at the hands of far leftists who were operating in groups of people who were associated with a guy named Bill Ayers. Bill Ayers is a devout leftist politician, and he was a Barack Obama supporter. Had been to the White House more than 150 times under Barack Obama, and he had been prosecuted for terrorism against members of the United States. Basically, Bill Ayers and his group of Acorn and all these people that he had were killing cops and getting away with it. But that is very few instances of terrorism that were committed by people in the United States, and the majority of which were uh, acts of terrorism that were completed by people in the United States or carried out by people from the United States were from that time frame and because of that group. Okay,
Okay, okay,
so let's get past that. In the modern era of terrorism, there are 4 veterans who have carried out acts of terrorism against the United States.
okay.
4. One of them was Timothy McVeigh with the Oklahoma City bombing.
That's a big one.
Yes. The other 3 were all prior military, and all 3 of them were radicalized Islamist jihadists. And those are your terrorists who
Mhm.
carried out mass shootings that Barack Obama would not call
Oh, okay. I
terrorism.
yeah. So the one at the military base. What base was that at?
I think it was Fort Hood.
Fort Hood. Yep, that's right. He would not declare. But did Trump?
Trump said yes, it was an act
Because
of
there was
terrorism.
something about
Obama said no.
the people getting benefits differently because of it.
They wouldn't get their death gratuity because it was an act of terrorism under the in the time of war. If it was an act of
Yeah,
terrorism that killed you, you got your gratuity paid out as like a combat gratuity.
got it.
Uh, so yeah, Trump changed it so that people could get the money.
Did they get that
Oh
money? Sorry.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Obama did left it the way it was.
Yep.
So obviously the most recent guy with the vehicle who drove through in New Orleans
New Orleans.
was the
Yeah.
most recent military veteran who drove through and he had the ISIS flag on. What
Hmm.
Lawrence O'Donnell doesn't cover is that of the military veterans who've carried out acts of terrorism,
Hmm.
that's a very small portion of the 1,600 acts of terrorism that have been carried out against the United States. It's 4, and only one
Yeah.
of them was a white guy. And the white guy was radicalized due to the actions of the ATF and the FBI in Waco, Texas, when they carried out an attack against the Branch Davidian compound against David Koresh
David
and killed
Koresh.
all of those people at the Branch Davidian compound. And that's what his
Hmm.
radicalization took place. That's why he left in his memo or his whatever it's called, his agenda that he carried out the attack against Oklahoma City at
Manifesto.
the manifesto at the federal building. Um, so there you go. Lawrence O'Donnell comes out and
Interesting.
says that, oh no, you're far more likely to be killed by an American veteran,
Hmm.
a military veteran, in an act of terrorism, than you would be by somebody coming across the border. Now, Angry Cop said this, and this is kind of hilarious. Angry Cop had some statistics of his own, and if you haven't seen that Angry Cop video, the guy makes me giggle quite a bit.
I've not. I'll have to look it up.
He is pretty funny. Um, what about all the fentanyl that comes across the border? Nobody's been killed by anything or anyone coming across the border. The coyote is coming across the border with the fentanyl that hasn't killed anybody, Lawrence O'Donnell. We haven't called that terrorism, but it's killing far more people a year than any fucking military member of any branch of the military could do in a single terrorist activity. There's not even a chance. It pisses me off when the media gets involved to swing back at a president and decides to try to shit all over the military community. You know who fucking raises their hands? Those guys. They raise their hands and they say, "You know what? I'll give my life, should need be, to protect this country and your way of life, Lawrence O'Donnell. I will go serve wherever at any point in time when shit pops off." Those guys you're saying are the ones that we have to be worried about.
Mhm.
I want to punch a size Lawrence O'Donnell in the fucking face. It's
Yeah.
disgusting when you do shit like this. And I don't know what you're trying to get at. Like, for you to try to use the military as a way to justify in your own mind that illegal immigration is not dangerous. Laken Riley would argue with you. Her family sure as fuck does. Several other families they'll say the same thing.
Yep.
That lady who just burned to death on a fucking subway in New York, I bet you she'd argue with you.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't care about the acts of terrorism.
Mhm.
Right? Like,
have they come out
a
about
thing.
the Border Patrol agent that was killed yesterday?
Not yet.
Okay.
I have not seen,
I'm
but you know where that, what's gonna come out of
assuming that's an illegal person as well.
that. I am
Either
I'm
that
as
or
well.
it's drugs, fentanyl, something like that.
Mhm.
If it is a citizen, it's drug related.
I just fucking it pisses me off.
Yeah.
And when the media comes out and a guy like this who's just a fucking sleazeball working for a sleazeball company who comes out and I'm gonna show you Trump and here's how I'm gonna do it. Hey, I got
Mhm.
an idea. Why don't you use the 1% of our fucking population who put on a uniform, the 1%? And while you're at it, go ahead and piss off the less than 1% who've been overseas in combat and have actually fought and done the job for real because you want to fucking score some kind of political point or some clickbait talking point that you can get on the fucking internet, you fucking disgusting slime ball. Um, I it's MSNBC. I shouldn't be allowing it to get, to make me this mad, but that
Ben,
guy's a giant piece of shit.
I think you are seriously underestimating the 1/4% of terrorist attacks that happen from veterans.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably,
That 1/4% is the most deadly one.
what gets me out of all of this is
Yeah.
it, Lawrence O'Donnell and
Hmm.
all of them on the merry band of idiots on the left probably would have been really upset if Kamala would have won and they would have started to try to implement all the things they wanted to, because there's a number in the past that has been one of the biggest terrorist attacks this country has ever seen, and it was 3%.
Hmm.
And if you catch my drift, it was 3% of our population who fought off the British military and created this country. And it would only take about 3% again to put boots in ass and fix
No,
this country
I
again.
don't think it'd even take 3%.
Probably not, but
Hmm.
as fast as the left seems to fold when put under pressure, 3% seems like an apt number. And
They're like the new
it's
French.
yeah, they are. They are the new French. God, it pisses me off. Lawrence O'Donnell, if you haven't seen that video, go watch him. You just want to punch him right in the face the whole time. I
Yeah.
want to punch. I don't know what it is with the way he talks, but I can see his bottom teeth the whole time, and I just want to knock his bottom teeth out. That's all. That's it. I just want to punch him in the fucking face and knock his teeth out, and just spit on him as he's crying, asking why I just beat his face in. And I would say, you can consider that the fifth terrorist attack carried out by a military veteran. What an idiot.
Hmm.
What an idiot. Just blindly and blatantly disregard all the other terrorist attacks that have been carried out.
Oh, it doesn't
And
fit their
then,
narrative. That's what they
oh, of
do.
course, of course. But the border's open. We know that terrorists have come across. We know that they've captured terrorists there. We know that Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Al Shabaab, ISIS, Al Qaeda, they're all unifying and they all want to carry out attacks on the homeland. Oh, so we're just supposed to say that the border's fine.
Hmm.
These people are fucking idiots, man. And it just, I don't know, whatever. So if you're a veteran and you feel like you should send a nasty gram to Terrence O'Donnell, he works at MSNBC. Like you
Lawrence.
probably should. Lawrence.
Lawrence
Lawrence.
O'Donnell.
Sorry, Lawrence O'Donnell.
Leave Terrence O'Donnell out of this.
My bad, Terrence. My bad, T Dog. Yeah. Oh yeah. So then the other one I wanted to talk about, how about that
Yes.
28th Amendment, huh?
Yeah. So that's fun. Yeah. Well, it's the law of the land now. So
It's gotta be, right?
you just need to accept it.
Yep, you have to.
All right. So the 28th Amendment was
Yeah.
ratified by 34 states. 38 states? What's the number? 34. Anyway, the when did it start? The 70s? 80s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somewhere in there? I think it
Way
was the
back then.
70s. I think it was late
70s,
70s. Yeah.
for sure.
It was a constitutional amendment for equal rights
Hmm.
for women.
For men and women, yes.
Yep. And turns out that pesky little thing had a sunset clause in it that gave a date on when everything needed to be ratified, when the states needed to ratify it.
Correct.
So it didn't get the last one it needed until a couple years ago. So Biden decided on the last day, or one of the last days, that he was going to recognize it as ratified. Now, he could have done that 4 years ago when he took office, or at the end of the Obama term. They didn't. They recognized it now, and
Well,
the
after adding
even
a lot.
yeah. So even so, the funny part is that the last state ratified it a few years ago. However, since
Virginia.
then, 4 other states have rescinded theirs. So
Putting them below the number.
yeah, but it doesn't even matter because the sunset date was in like the 80s or so, 70s or 80s. That had to
Yep.
be all the states had to ratify it by, or the 2/3 or whatever had to ratify it
Yep.
by this date
Correct.
in the 70s.
And even if it was considered ratified, what he did was he amended the amendment.
Correct.
So he put other provisions in.
Yeah.
So it would never have
Yeah, I wasn't even gonna get to that part yet.
no.
Because like the
Yeah.
original thing's not ratified.
The original amendment itself is not
Yeah.
ratified, but it gave equal protections under the law, right?
Right.
And then on top of that, Biden's administration, his wokesters, right?
Mm-hmm.
They put in like transgender protections and LGBTQ plus AI 59er-7 fucking protections, a whole bunch of shit. And basically they amended an amendment that has not been ratified, but he's considering it the law of the land. So that's neat.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
amazing how you can just
what he said that the American Bar Association has recognized that the Equal Rights Amendment has cleared all necessary hurdles to be formally added to the Constitution as the 28th Amendment. I agree with the ABA and with leading legal constitutional scholars that the Equal Rights Amendment has become part of our Constitution.
I'm
The
glad that we leave
problem,
that up to the ABA to decide for us.
the problem is, so this amendment was originally passed in 1972,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to find the sunset date. It needed 38 states to ratify it. Virginia became the 38th state in 2020.
Right.
This is a CNN article, so they're not going to have the sunset clause. Let's see.
Isn't that funny how you get a story It's not the story, but it's a story.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you're talking about left,
you're missing a significant piece of
right?
the story. Um, Wikipedia just has a list of proposed amendments to the Constitution of the United States, proposed amendments that will become the 28th if ratified. Then it's got a little bullet underneath it. It says Equal Rights Amendment, referred to as the 28th Amendment by President Joe Biden, comma, unratified.
Yeah, it's not ratified, and it's
No, it's not. It's so even the own, so it's up to, it's not up to the president. It's up
no.
to, shoot, now I can't think of the guy's title. There's, but Biden's own guy said it wasn't ratified. Shoot.
The archivist.
Yeah, it's the archivist.
Yeah,
This is the one that apparently in the Constitution or whatever,
they
or
they
the
have to add it.
procedural. Yeah, they have to add it once it's been ratified. And his own person even said that it did not. Has not been ratified.
Right, and they will not.
Yeah.
So, eh, this is just another. I mean, it's what's funny is Biden's explanation. Thank God that the American Bar Association, the same group of lawyers who were threatening to disbar anybody representing Trump. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The same group of lawyers who are like, if you represent Trump, we're going to take your legal law license away in New York and wherever you're trying to represent him because you're representing a fascist. Well, thank God those are the people that decide if what we have is ratified and constitutional or not. They're the ones we put all of our eggs into that basket. As long
Yeah.
as it's a far left lawyer.
So in December, the National Archivist, which is tasked with certifying and publishing new amendments, said it could not add the ERA to the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, can't.
They did
It's
that in December.
yeah, it's been sunsetted.
It's
It can't.
hilarious.
But the funny thing is, if I mean, at any point in time under the Biden administration, they could have went back and tried, but they didn't because they knew it wouldn't pass. It would never stand up against a legal challenge. And at the same time, really what they wanted to do
Hmm.
was just create this battle in courts for Trump because that's what'll happen is it's going to have to be
I don't.
fought in court.
I don't think I'll even go that far, to be honest, because it says I found the deadline. It was 1982 deadline. Only 35 states had ratified the amendment at that time. So the deadline was published in the law. Like they can sue all they want, but it's not going anywhere.
Oh yeah, it's not going to win, but that's all they
Yeah.
want is the headline, right? All they want is to damage Trump and say, look, this guy, this misogynist won't, he doesn't agree with women, and they're going to do that ahead of the 2020, six election. That's all they're doing. They're setting this up so that somebody later on, right around, late 2025, ahead of the
Mm.
freaking 2-year cycle. That's all it is. It's all it ever is.
I mean, I don't
It
disagree
means
with.
nothing.
I don't disagree with that's their plan. I just don't think that's going to work because it was Biden's own White House or National Archivist that decided it was not. You know what I mean? So it wasn't even.
Oh,
This
for
isn't
sure.
even an interpretation. All the Trump administration has to do is say, "Well, the National Archivist under Biden said no." So that's the stance we're taking.
Oh, sure. I mean, I would sure. I mean, I agree with that completely. That should be what would be said.
Well, of course.
But look what's happened the last 4 years. If you bring it in front of the right judge, he'll hear it. If it's an anti-Trump judge, he'll hear it. He'll listen to it. He'll want
Sure.
arguments on it.
Of course. I just don't think it's not going to go very far, and it's
It
not going to
won't.
be
There's no way they can.
It's not going to be sustained.
There's no way they can
No.
do anything with it. You're right.
No.
But I
No.
think all it's going to do is it's going to be like, look, ladies, Trump's shooting down this, and this is what this is meant for. And they're going to say not only the LGBTQ stuff in it, but they're going to say all the provisions that were originally put in it that our country did follow for a long time without this even in place,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yeah.
those protections were granted immediately when this thing came out in the 70s. And I mean, we haven't really needed it. The equal rights are there.
Mhm.
But that's what they're going to say is Trump doesn't believe in any of this. And they're going to try to paint it as he's a misogynist and he's a this and that and everything else. And it's the same play they always try for, the
Yeah.
same thing they always try to do. And it'll go nowhere. There's nothing they can. Like you said, his own archivist shot it down. Right?
Yeah, that's why I think it won't even really bounce onto the Trump administration because they're just going to say, look, it was the Biden administration that said it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, they'll
And
try,
it's just going to
but
be deflected. That
it's
of all
still
the
it won't.
stuff, of all the national stuff, that's not going to be it. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it's going to be one of the misogynist arguments they make against him. That's all they have. They don't have anything else.
Yeah.
If he goes on and he starts fixing the economy and he brings down inflation, and there's going to be three things they go after. They're going to want women to hate Trump. They're going to point out all the bad things he's done to illegals and how racist he is with all the deportations. And then they're going to go right back to the he's not fit to be a president because he's dangerous on the world stage. Because that's all they have. They have nothing else. Because if you have a guy who's keeping our country safe, he's doing it with a big stick, right? A lot of talk and a big stick, like Soleimani, killing Soleimani. They went nuts after he killed Soleimani. You're going to get us into World War III, blah, blah, blah. Well, look what Biden fucking did.
Right.
We almost fucking had a nuclear exchange with Russia for, I mean, didn't we go to DEFCON 3 for a little bit there under the Biden administration? Do we forget that? That all of a sudden Russia's talking about using ballistic missiles, ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles against the United States? Did we forget that? But they're going to do the same thing. It's always the same three fucking things they'll do with Trump. And then I'm surprised already they're not saying impeach, 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 because they did that ahead of his last election and they haven't said it yet. Maybe they've learned, maybe they haven't. It will be the same three pushes. He's a racist, he's a misogynist or a sexist who hates women, and he's so hot-headed, it doesn't have the temperament. He doesn't have the brain capacity to be our commander in chief. Those will be the three things they have that they go after constantly. And anything they can get to try to stick in any of those categories, they won't hesitate to do. They will use anything they can. They'll find generals to come out and say that he's too hot-headed. They'll find workers like Omarosa or whoever else that he fires because they're not doing their job, and they'll be like, "Oh, he's a sexist," and that's what they do. That's the plan that they have. That's all they have that can stick to him. That's it. So I do think it'll happen. I do think that's a valid thing, a valid path forward. I just don't think anything will come of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't.
Legally,
yeah,
will come of
it's something they might try, and they probably will try. I'm just saying it's not. Nothing is going to come of it. Like it's not going to.
Nothing legally can.
It's not going to. Well, not even that. Nothing's going to stick to him on that. It wasn't him that denied it.
That never matters, though. Like I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Like he did nothing. Right. It's going to be all on Biden's legacy, all on Biden's own department. Just a stupid decision Biden made. But they don't care. They're going to still try to tar and feather him any way they can. And I think this time around, after seeing what happened last time, I think he's smart enough to try to stay away from most of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let me ask you this. Even at the executive order signing, did he see a different guy in front of the media than he was before?
Well, he doesn't have to run again.
Right.
Right.
But he also,
so I don't think
like,
you thought he didn't give a fuck before?
Right.
Yeah.
He's not lashing out. He's not saying anything. I mean, he was calm and he was asked some questions that were meant to be like, I got you questions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like,
yeah,
I don't
for
think
sure.
so.
For sure.
I think no, we're not going to do that. We're not. And he just kind of blew it off.
Yeah.
But also, I think this time around, he's secure enough and safe enough to know that he's got a lot of backing behind him from a lot, like you said before, a lot of smart people who are all on the same page pushing forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's got to help.
And I don't disagree with your stance on they're going to use this. I just the only people that are going to be talking about that are the media that has lost 50% of their viewers. So it ain't going to matter.
Hope you're right.
Yeah.
Don't have that faith in our media establishment or in our population.
Well, the media establishment's pretty much dead because of X.
But here's the thing. Our population has the fucking collective memory of a gnat. Our news cycles move so fast and our people are so stupid for the most part that they just catch their next soundbite from whoever. And it doesn't matter. It could be on X, but it could be one influencer on X or TikTok. It could be the difference between starting a trend with taking something and running with it, and then it just sticks. And that's the reality that we live in right now, is that people for the majority of the country are getting their news in sound bites and snippets. It doesn't have to be something that's based in reality. I mean, if it's just something that catches and becomes viral, that's all it takes.
Yeah, but
Unfortunately,
you've already seen those networks. They're already not talking about the 28th Amendment. You know what I mean? Like that has to be sustained. Like you said, the news cycle moves so fast that
yeah,
I just don't think that is going to be the argument that holds. I'm not saying they're not going to try it, and I'm not saying they're not going to sue for it. They will, of course, they will. But I just don't think it's going to be sustained,
I don't think so
especially
either.
now. Like, um, you that's going to last for 4 years? No,
No, well, I think with everything with this, you have to wait until right before the next election so
a
people don't
hundred
forget
percent
about it, right?
correct.
So
Right,
you have to
because
put
now
this
it's
in
going to
your
be like in 2 years, it's going to be like what
right.
we've been hearing
You
about
have
this
to.
forever. Yeah,
You have to put it in your toolbox, and
yeah,
hopefully you can bring it out. And that's all it is. It's just going to be a tar and feather
for
campaign, and
sure.
it's not
Yep.
just going to be this. They'll have to tack on everything they can. I mean, they'll
Hmm.
drag out the what's that lady who got the punitive damages in her favor for the
Yeah, but she's
alleged
going to
assault.
lose that in the appeals, so that doesn't matter either.
Man,
I can't
I
think of
hope
her
that
name.
happens.
I can't think of her name. I know
I mean,
the one
they drag
appeals
her
court.
out.
Yeah, the first appeals court gave it to her, but that's New York. Like by the time it gets
Weird.
to the Supreme Court, it's going to be gone. And
I hope you're right.
somebody else just called them a rapist the other day on the news. Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
hope he goes
remember.
after them.
Didn't they fix it on air right afterwards?
I think so. Well, I don't know.
They
This
did because
just
they were
happened
afraid of
like
getting.
yesterday, I think.
Oh, I was talking about the
During
one
the
like 2 weeks ago.
inauguration. Yeah, there was one a couple weeks ago that they made her read a statement. That was Sunny.
Instantly. No, it was somebody else besides. So it was another person that came out and said it, and then they had to go back and
Mm,
immediately they covered.
yeah.
Oh, it was Mika Brzezinski fixed it
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
live on air, and she
Mm,
fixed it. She said, "Well, he was not a rapist. He's not whatever."
yeah.
And then everybody on the left is like, "Oh, look at Mika and Joe are kissing the hands of power
Yeah.
again,"
Yeah. Yeah.
which there's probably some truth to that as well. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's going to be interesting on both sides of the aisle. It's going to be. I'm eager to see what the Democrats are going to try to do to disrupt Trump's plans. And I think you'd called it right before when you said they're just going to stonewall. They're going to use, as whatever they can to drag things out. They're going to filibuster. They're going to try to delay his agenda in every way possible. And it's just not going to work, man. The American people they're done with it. They're done with the bullshit. Like if you stand in the way of Trump getting done what he wants to get done, he's just going to come out and say, "Well, I would like to do that for you, but they
Yeah.
won't let me."
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a different, I think it's, I think Vivek and, Elon and RFK and all these people they're, they're having an effect.
For sure, because you're getting
Hmm.
way more from both sides than you ever were before.
Yeah. Um, yeah. We'll see. We'll see if he can sustain it. He's got to stay there. Um, I do think it's a solid plan. I also think that with Elon telling everyone, like, I'm a primary you. Oh, I'm gonna find somebody. I'm a primary every one of you.
Mm.
There's uh they just got bipartisan support for a couple more cabinet secretaries coming out of committee. Like there's people in the battleground states that are terrified.
They
And
should
so I
be.
think you see, and there was even talk yesterday on the news on one of the programs I was watching. I can't remember which one. Um, but they're talking about how there's even more rumors now about Fetterman changing sides.
Good. Um, Fetterman's a weird. I was just
He's
having
an
this
odd
argument with
case,
somebody.
man, because he was like super woke, wasn't he?
No, well,
With I thought he was as the lieutenant governor.
I don't think he was ever really woke. I think what he was a heavy Democrat. And
Like
he
a
really
union guy.
honestly
Yeah.
yes, and he wanted to be the guy that represented the worker.
Mm,
And I mean, this is a guy who came from money, but he was always putting on hoodies and
yeah.
you know, like Carhartt pants and like
Hmm.
work boots and pretending that. And everybody was calling him out for like, "Oh, you've never had to work a day in your life." But I think he really identified with the working man, right? With a blue
Hmm.
collar worker. and so much so that it became his identity, right?
Sure.
And now that's all he wants to do is represent people in that regard.
Hmm.
And so he might be one of those rare cases where I became what I am because that's what I said I was going to be. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's really odd. I was just having this conversation with a brother-in-law, and he's like, "Yeah, he's just kissing the ring that's in power." And I said, "I don't believe that. I think that Fetterman is one of the few, because he had also talked about, well, Tulsi's the same way, and RFK is the same way, and all these people, they're just
Hmm.
kissing the ring that's in power." And I said, "No, I just think they realize that the one guy who can get stuff done, because their side of the aisle won't do it for them, the
Correct.
one guy who can get stuff done is the guy that they are teamed up with, because he also believes that in some of the things that that person believes in. You don't have to believe in 100% of what I believe in, right?
Right.
But
No
as
one
long as we can
does.
work together, right? Exactly. As long as we can work together, we can push forward a decent agenda. We'll fix what you think needs to be fixed. You help me fix what I think needs to be fixed, and we'll make America a better country for it. And
Hmm.
that's what our political parties used to do, right? Back before they became what they are now, which is big corporate owned and uh, dark money sponsored all over the place, and it's become an activist paradise. That's all it is. Whether it's the climate grift, or whether it's the LGBTQ grift, or whether it's military industrial complex grift, that's what it's become. It's become this slush fund for big corporations, and the people that are in Washington are drunk and obsessed with the power that they have, because it's also a slush fund for them. They can sexually assault whoever they want, and there's an actual slush fund that shuts up their victims. They can go party, do all sorts of fucking crazy things and all sorts of debauchery. They don't ever get held accountable for it. And then when the time comes, they have insider trading that they can boost their, line their pockets with. They'll stay there for 15 or 20 years. They'll leave and they'll be set for the rest of their lives. So it's it's weird how this dynamic is. So yeah, they're all terrified.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you nailed it with RFK and Tulsi specifically. Like, look what happened to Tulsi. They called her a fucking Russian agent because she destroyed a couple people, Hillary Clinton and then Kamala, and they basically shunned her from the party. RFK, nobody was going to go against pharmaceutical companies, not on that side of the aisle. So he
Mm-hmm.
went to where he could do he's openly talked about. He doesn't have much time left. He wants to get this done, so he went to somebody else.
Yeah, it's the only play he has, right?
Yep.
Where do we want to go now?
Oh. Um, I don't know. What else we got on the I'm trying to think of everything that I don't know. Apparently 18 states have sued Trump now for the birthright citizenship.
Yeah, I saw that. Of course they have.
Mm-hmm. Um,
I
uh,
like that you sent me the John Bolton thing.
yeah, the
That's
John
fun.
Bolton thing's crazy. So you now pay for your own security.
Yeah.
Good.
I also love that he's like, well, they targeted Trump. Why wouldn't they target me?
Yeah, they will.
Good
No,
luck, buddy.
actually. Yeah.
Good luck, buddy.
Um, what do you know about his the dude he made as Secret Service?
I haven't even seen who it is.
It sounded like it was his bodyguard. It's at least the dude that was one of the first ones there when he got shot at that was standing up protecting him.
Here's what I know about Trump's security detail. On his own, like the guys he hired, the Mar-a-Lago detail, he had former military
Hmm.
and former NYPD, and I think um they know what they're doing, obviously.
Hmm.
The question is, are they
Sean Curran.
I've never even heard of them.
Oh, hang on. Trump taps the leader of his personal detail to run the U.S. Secret Service. Sean Curran. For the past 4 years, Curran has led Trump's detail and is known to have a close personal relationship with the president-elect.
Oh, so this guy, he's former Secret Service. He's been there for 20 years.
Curran is?
Yep.
That's what I
He
was trying to find.
was on the presidential detail that Trump kept. So
And
he
then
was
he
part of the.
left to stay with Trump.
Mhm. So, well, when the way it works, when a president has their protective detail, he gets to choose which of the details stay with him because he keeps them for life. And so he picked this guy.
Hmm.
And it sounds like this guy obviously has been around Trump and has had a great relationship with him. So he's kept him. So I was going to say, depending on who they have, who is, you want to make sure they have the capacity to understand the tasks for add-on for presidential security, right? Like,
Mhm.
it has to be somebody from within the security company, some security organization, somebody who
Oh.
knows and has protected dignitaries abroad.
Hmm.
And this guy obviously has that capacity. He's done it for a long time. But then you also have to have somebody who's not going to play politics because the Secret Service has to be apolitical.
Hmm.
It's like the military in that regard. It doesn't matter who your commander in chief is. You have to not buy in BS. And I guess that was the one nice thing that we talked about in the past that we saw um, at the Trump assassination. Even the DEI hires that they had there that were filling in
Hmm.
still pulled their pistols, looked like they were ready to do their job. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I don't know, but it's a large task to fix the Secret Service. It has been kind of, I don't know, they've lost a lot of the prestige that went behind that was behind the name.
Yeah.
We covered the second assassination attempt. They were just feet away and engaged and didn't hit a target.
Hmm.
And I'm guessing that was panic fire. Like that was just shooting to move out of the way because they thought they were going to be
Yeah.
engaged.
Yep.
And then you know, the assassination attempt the first time around obviously is not a good look at all.
Mm-mm.
And then this last inauguration thing where they couldn't, it's one thing we never talked about. We talked about it beforehand that I was really uncomfortable with them having the inauguration outside.
Mm-mm.
And you had said, hey, well, maybe they'll move it inside. And they did move it inside. And the official claim was because of uh, the freezing temperatures. And maybe that's true. Maybe they moved in because of the freezing temperatures. And if that's what happened, thank God that there was freezing temperatures. I just, who knows? Um,
Yeah, we're not gonna know.
we're not
Well,
going to know.
not for a while.
But I will say that there was no way they would have protected him from drones. There was no way they would have protected him from multiple people
Well,
who wanted to carry out violence.
but doesn't the Secret Service have jamming equipment that they put in the area? Wouldn't that affect drones?
No, as we're finding out now with the stuff in Ukraine that the Russians are using for jamming drones, it's not working as well as they would like to have
Okay.
hoped.
Okay.
So now you almost need a directional
Mm-hmm.
threat, which they do have. Like China's building that high powered microwave, the HPM,
Yeah.
and I guess we have one as well. But what we're seeing coming out of Ukraine is that jamming works, but it is a very short distance that you can jam, and the drones can get right on top of you and still fall on you and detonate. So you watch some of the videos that are coming out of Ukraine. That's the one. That's the most terrifying thing for
Yeah.
me right now is that warfare has changed completely
Mm-hmm.
with the use of these personal drones or the POV drones, where they're just flying, exploding, devices right into your face.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'm sure they would have had some sort of technology, but it's not as good as what we need.
Yeah.
And then they didn't have it, nothing that worked at the last well, at the first attempt on Trump, they didn't have the drone technology, the jamming technology. They didn't have the device there. And I don't know that I don't know. That's the scary thing is that much like with GWAT, the Global War on Terrorism, there was a whole bunch of developments and a whole bunch of things that came out technology wise that war inspired, right? Um, a lot of it was medically, like the medical techniques and tactics that were used to save lives on the battlefield, kind of
Mhm.
reshaped what they're doing in ambulances and what they're doing in emergency rooms across the world because we had years of experience in dealing with catastrophic injuries to people. Um, and we were saving a lot of lives on the battlefield with, immediate first aid. So they came up with a lot of devices and things like that out in the battlefield that were needed, and they made it to the civilian world. And then on top of that, you had weapon systems like have changed completely, right? Like how often do you see a rifle that doesn't have some kind of aim point or some kind of holographic sight on top of it, or thermals or just all the different kinds of capacities with that. That all kind of started blowing up with the GWAT era because people started expanding and building better and better and better. Well, you're seeing the same thing right now with drones and drone technology, and that is absolutely terrifying, bro. Like the levels of capacity that are being used with these things right now are it's scary. I can't imagine. I can't imagine being in a battle and having to worry about what's in front of me, what's to the left of me, what's to the right of me, and what's behind me,
Mhm.
what's underneath my feet, and now what's above me that, doesn't it's not a plane. I mean, it's some other guy is controlling a flying grenade.
Yeah.
So that sucks. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll never know what the deal was with Trump going indoors outside of if there was. I don't think they'll ever put it out there. I wouldn't. I certainly wouldn't put out that I
No,
was under
well,
you.
it'll come out in somebody's book at some point.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But if there was a threat, you think they're investigating it, and we'll hear eventually the
Hmm.
ends of that.
Hmm.
One other thing I would like to see Trump do is at some point designate Antifa as domestic terrorist group if they continue to do the shit in this administration that they did in the last one, in his
Hmm.
last administration.
Hmm.
Um, then they face federal penalties for anything they do. So that would be nice. Uh, yeah.
Uh, I got a thing here for you from Mike Pence.
Oh yeah, gee, he's
Yeah.
he's real butthurt.
Yeah. Mike Pence group urges GOP senators to oppose RFK Jr.'s HHS secretary confirmation.
Of course he does.
Yeah, Mike, that's why you're sitting on the sidelines, bud.
Well, I'm gonna do what I always do. Let's just see here. Go to Google.
Yeah, what's the Mike Pence? First, find out what that Mike Pence group
What
is.
what stock does Mike Pence own? Oh, he's worth 107 million.
Advancing American Freedom is the group. Sent a letter to Republican senators Monday expressing concerns with Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s support for conspiracy theories, anti-vaccine stances, and past liberal views. Come on. Uh, and prior struggle with heroin addiction. Okay. I can't read the full story because I'm not on National Review. But
We're willing to bet that Mike Pence owns stock in some kind of pharmaceutical company, or his wife does, or somebody does in his orbit that he's close to, and he doesn't want RFK coming out and damaging that. He's bought and paid for by somebody. It's the pharmaceutical companies if he's trying to go against RFK, because that's going to be RFK's big push. So who is it that Mike Pence is, you know, beholden to?
yeah, I can only find stuff from his chief of staff.
What did they have?
Um, I didn't click on it. It says stocks belonging to Pence chief of staff could violate conflict of interest laws. Mark Short, chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence, owns up to 1.64 million in stocks in companies related to the government's pandemic response.
So Pence is funded by a bunch of life insurance companies, a bunch of insurance companies. So listen to this. These are the people who have backed up Pence in his 2024 presidential bid. Variety Wholesalers, Hill Development, Mountain Air Corp, Founding Principles PAC, that's from Indiana, the Western National Group, Payroll and Insurance Group, La Finca LLC, Penske Corp, PBF Energy, Bluff Point Association, Sea Star and Company, NAI Hanning and Bean, Lucas Oil Products, Advanced Financial, Petco Petroleum, Edward C. Levi Company, Stevens Inc., Macom Auctions, JPAC, South Carolina, Keller Investment Properties. That's just 2024. Not seeing anything going back to pharmaceuticals, but I would 100% it's going to go back to whoever is going to. It's always the money. Follow the fucking money, and you
Yeah.
find out
Yeah.
what the real narrative is.
Mm-hmm.
And the real narrative for Pence is RFK. He doesn't like RFK because what? RFK is going after the vax, I heard, right? So if he's going after the vax, then obviously this guy has stock in the vax companies.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's made a bunch of money.
He's going after the NIH doing actual research. It's not necessarily that he's going after vaccines and saying all vaccines are bad. He wants the data published. They still have not set up his hearing,
Who's hearing? Kennedy's?
Kennedy's or Tulsi. And Tulsi's a national security position. That should be done already.
Here you go. This could be it. Uh, Mike Pence breaks silence to take credit for Pfizer vaccine and drug company immediately denies Trump's involvement. So this was in Monday 9 November 2020. Mike Pence came out and said, "Well, it was me that was working with Pfizer because remember Trump put him ahead of that task force,
Mm-hmm.
and Pfizer came out and said, yeah, it was us in conjunction with Mike Pence that got this vaccine. No matter what Trump says, it was Mike Pence and Pfizer.
Hmm.
And even then, it says this is kind of telling. Pfizer announced on Monday morning that their COVID vaccine was 90% effective in early trials. It was in November 9th, 2020. But Fauci said it was 100% effective, safe and
Mm-hmm.
effective. Wow. Maybe we should have just listened, huh?
Maybe.
What is this? Here's a headline: J6 hostages refused release after pardon as deep force Trump clashes outside prison erupt.
What's that?
I don't know. This is something that one of our listeners just sent me right now. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know. I'll have to look into that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We got to stay hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
We got to stay hopeful, and we got to continue to push forward. And every chance we get, we have to drive home the successes of the Trump administration with Tulsi, Vivek, and Elon and RFK, and we have to continue to highlight the fact that they're working together across the aisle. These people aren't all Republican, right? Elon is not a Republican. Tulsi's not a Republican. Uh, uh, RFK is definitely not a Republican, but they all have a common goal in mind, and that is to make the country safe, to make the country America again, and to make the country better or restore us back to what we should be, the guiding principles, the founding principles nation, the best nation, the most freest nation on the planet, right? And then you have to put in there, you have to look at the whole Pete Hegseth, and you have to look at Kash Patel, and you have to look at all the other guys that are being put in place, being implemented into the structure under the Trump administration that are also going to make the institutions like the Federal Bureau of Investigations back, restore some sort of prominence there.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on terrorists, focus on real crime, not made up crime. You're not going after parents at the school board for not appreciating their school board, trying to get drag queen story hour brought into their damn, schools, or have pornography for little kids that teach little kids how to have premarital gay sex by the time they're fucking 10, which we've seen in libraries. But like, we have to allow those people to get in place and start to filter down and filter through all the bullshit and start to figure stuff out. So we have to stay on this. We have to stay motivated. We have to stay in line with the message. But, and here's the big but, campaign promises were made. We have to hold this administration, just like any other administration, accountable. They don't get a free pass just because of how bad Biden was or how bad Obama was. He did really well in his first 4 years with what he could get past with what he was dealing with. Now he's got both, and they have to work together, and they have to do their work. They have to do the job. American people deserve better. We deserve far better than what we've been given the last 4 years. And we deserve far better than what would have been given if Trump wasn't elected. He is elected. We have to keep the pressure on. We have to keep going in the right direction and call out what we see. A spade is a spade, whether it's Republican or Democrat. We have to call it out. Call it out immediately. The more we do, the more pressure we put on, the more likely we are to get a response and an answer. So that's all I got.
Yeah, that's good. I can't really add to that. It's right on.
All right. Well, I think we should probably wrap this one up.
Yeah, sounds good. Check us out, our website, Facebook, X, Truth. YouTube posted our last video, so we're still on YouTube. Yeah.
Said
Impressive.
vaccine stuff in this one. We're getting a strike for sure.
Did we?
I talked about that.
Yeah, we try to talk about it in everyone to see how long it'll take us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we're still there.
Right on. Well, if we're there, check us out. If not, you probably know why.
Yep. If you can't find us, you know.
You definitely know.
Yep. So,
well, everybody, thanks a lot for joining in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Blue Collar Takes. Oh, and fuck YouTube.